I'm a nurse. I know how to save lives, but I couldn't save myself.
My name is Clarisse Alvarez. I'm 37 years old, a registered nurse from Quezon City, Philippines. And for most of my life, I lived wearing a mask, smiling outside but bleeding inside. Growing up, I always felt the need to be perfect. The eight who never complained, the daughter who made honor roll, the friend who gave everything and asked for nothing. But behind every perfect report card and practiced smile, there was a little girl silently screaming, "Am I enough?" In high school, someone called me Baboy Fat Pig. I laughed it off, but those two words pierced deeper than any knife. No matter how slim I got later, that insult clung to my bones. At 14, I started making myself throw up. At first, it was once a week, then every other day. Then it became part of my routine, like brushing my teeth. It wasn't about food, it was about control, about punishing myself for not being lovable enough. When I became a nurse, I thought helping others would heal me. It didn't. I was good at my job, kind, efficient, reliable, but no one knew I was also hollow, exhausted, hiding a war inside me that I didn't know how to end. I married Gabriel, a good man. He tried to understand me, but I never let him see the worst parts. I couldn't. I didn't even understand myself. When the pills came into my life, those tiny capsules prescribed to help people lose weight, I thought they were a salvation. Instead, they became my slow suicide. The pills gave me energy, control, no hunger, no sleep, just movement. I didn't rest for days. I'd clean the kitchen at 2 a.m., rearrange furniture in the dark dig holes in the backyard under the moonlight. I told myself I was just being productive, but really I was unraveling, quietly, fatally. Sometimes I'd lie down thinking I might finally fall asleep, only to jolt awake minutes later, gasping for air like my lungs had forgotten how to work. I'd jump up and down, slap my chest, scream into pillows, anything to force my body to remember how to breathe. The worst part, I stopped being afraid. I started accepting that one night I might not wake up, and maybe that was okay. I kept hiding it all. From Gabriel, from my kids, from everyone. Until one night I collapsed in the kitchen. I don't remember hitting the floor, just the cold and the fear. Gabriel found me curled up, barely conscious. He was terrified, angry, broken. He said, "Clarisse, I love you, but I can't do this anymore." I wanted to say something, anything, but shame clamped my mouth shut. He told me to check into a small hotel down the road. "Just sleep," he said, "please. For me, for the kids." So I went. I didn't know that night would change everything. I didn't know it would be the night I died. I drove myself to the hotel like Gabriel asked. It was just a kilometer away, a small budget inn we used to pass by but never entered. The sign buzzed weakly in red neon Sunrise Lodge. Vacancy. I remember gripping the steering wheel, palms wet, head pounding. Inside, I could barely stand. The woman at the front desk smiled and asked for my ID. I gave her a weak grin, slurred something about needing a room just for the night. She tapped the keyboard, looked up and said, "I'm so sorry, ma'am. We're fully booked tonight. There's a dental convention, every room's taken." The words didn't register. My ears began to ring. It felt like she was speaking underwater. I nodded, mumbled okay, and stumbled out. My legs were shaking. I got back in the car and sat still, staring at nothing. My heart was racing, but not with panic. It was something else, something final, a soft whisper in my chest. "You're not going to make it through the night." I tried to call Gabriel, but I didn't want to worry him. I couldn't tell him I felt like I was dying. So instead, I cried, alone in a parked car in front of a hotel that didn't want me. I whispered, "God, if you're real, if you still see me, help me get to the next hotel, just get me there. And I promise I'll rest. I'll stop hiding. I'll surrender. Please just get me there." I turned the key, the engine coughed, then caught. I drove slowly, barely breathing, toward the next place. A cheap older motel 2 kilometers up the road. It looked abandoned, honestly, but I didn't care. I needed silence. I needed a bed. I needed to not die in my car. I parked the crooked left the engine running and stumbled to the front desk. A quiet man handed me a key without asking questions. Room 104. I remember opening the door and thinking, this is it. This is where I'll sleep. This is where I'll live again. The room smelled like mold and cigarette smoke. The lights flickered when I turned them on. But to me, it was a palace. I dropped my bag on the floor, took off my shoes, and stood in front of the mirror. What I saw made my stomach drop. My skin was pale, my lips bluish, my eyes empty. I told myself, just take a warm bath, then sleep. You'll wake up tomorrow. You'll be better. So I turned on the faucet, let the tub fill, steam rose in slow ribbons. But then, something shifted. A sensation, heavy, dreadful, like something dark slid across the room and sat on my chest. I looked at the bathtub, and for the first time that night, I felt true fear. A terrifying voice in my spirit said, if you get in that water, you won't come out. I froze. The tub kept filling, water rising, but I couldn't move. Run, something whispered. And I did. Barefoot, no keys, no phone, no ID. I threw open the motel door and ran into the night. The air was cold, sharp, but I didn't care. I crossed the parking lot, not even looking for cars, when headlights flashed, then screeched. A car nearly hit me. The driver jumped out. He was tall, tan, probably late 50s, broken English. He kept asking, are you okay, ma'am? Are you okay? I couldn't answer. I could barely stand, but something about him felt safe. He opened the passenger door, and there it was, a Bible, just sitting on the seat. I stared at it, and all the walls inside me shattered. I nodded, slid in, and whispered, help me. He drove. I didn't know where, but I didn't care. Then I realized he wasn't heading toward a hospital. He pulled into a small white building with a cross in front, a church. An old pastor stood outside like he was waiting for me. He opened the door before the car even stopped. They both had to help me walk. My legs wouldn't cooperate. My chest was burning. Inside the church office, everything smelled of paper, wood, and oil. The pastor asked gently, what's your name? I couldn't answer. I didn't know. My head fell forward. The room tilted. The last thing I remember hearing was him shouting, do you believe in God? And with the last breath I had, I whispered, yes, I believe. Then everything went silent. No sound, no weight, no breath, just peace. I had taken my last breath on earth. But something else, something divine was just beginning. I didn't feel pain, not even fear. The moment I took that final breath, it was like stepping out of something tight, suffocating, and suddenly expanding into everything. 1 second I was collapsing in a dimly lit church office. The next I was floating above the room watching them panic, the pastor's eyes wide, his lips moving in prayer, frantic, trembling. The man who brought me was crying, kneeling beside my body, holding my hand like he was holding on for both of us. And my body, it just lay there, still, mouth slightly open, hands limp at my sides. But I wasn't in it. I hovered above the chaos like a leaf caught in the stillness before a storm. And for the first time in years, I could breathe, really breathe. Not the shallow, panic-laced gasps I was used to. No, this was different. It was like every breath was made of light and love and life. And I remember thinking, oh, this is me, this is really me. I looked down at my lifeless shell and didn't feel horror. I felt awe, gratitude even. I thought, thank you, body. You carried me through so much pain, but now you can rest. I felt no judgment, no regret, only a strange, profound gentleness, like I was being held by something far greater than gravity. And then I noticed it, a presence, to my right. I didn't see it the way we see things with human eyes, but I knew it was there, felt it, like warm gold wrapped in calm, an angel, not with wings or trumpets or fire, but a being made entirely of love. It didn't speak, yet I understood. It didn't move, yet it guided. And when it wrapped around me, I knew instantly I was not alone. The angel didn't pull me. It didn't push me. It simply existed near me, and in that nearness I began to rise. We moved upward slow at first, then impossibly fast, but not frightening. It was like being carried by joy itself. The tunnel opened before me, not dark but luminous. Every inch of it pulsed with color, with life, with this overwhelming music that wasn't made of instruments but of pure emotion. It was like hearing the song of the universe. And I wanted to cry, but not out of sadness, out of recognition. I had been so starved for this kind of beauty, this kind of peace. And now it was flooding through me like a waterfall I didn't even know I was thirsty for. I felt my old thoughts fall away like ash in the wind. Worry, shame, guilt, all of it dissolved. And what remained was simply me, the real me. And still I was rising, deeper into light, deeper into a realm that felt more real than anything I had ever known on earth. The farther I went, the more I could sense others' souls, lights, beings I couldn't see but somehow felt, all of them pulsing with love, welcoming me home. And then I felt it, something infinitely greater, not just near me, but everywhere. It wasn't a man on a throne. It wasn't a voice from the clouds. It was presence, power, compassion, wrapped into one impossible being. And I knew without needing to ask, God. He didn't need to announce himself. My soul recognized him before my thoughts did. And in that recognition, I burst into tears. Not tears of sorrow, but of healing, because I finally understood. All those years I thought he'd been silent. He had been holding me the whole time. Clarisse, you were never alone. Not for a single second. Even in the silence, even in the suffering, I was there, and I believed him. Not because of the words, but because of the love that saturated every syllable. Love so thick, so full it wrapped around me like silk and sank into every broken part of me. I had questions, so many, but I didn't even need to ask them. Every question I thought was answered instantly, not with logic, but with understanding. Like God was inside my thoughts, gently peeling them open and pouring light into every corner. We didn't talk the way we do on earth. We communed. He showed me things, moments I had forgotten, memories I had buried. He showed me the time I sang softly to a dying patient in the ER, not knowing she was awake, the way her heart slowed peacefully after. He showed me the little boy whose scraped knee I bandaged, who smiled at me like I was a superhero. He showed me the quiet prayers I had whispered through gritted teeth, thinking no one heard. These were not small things, my child. These were holy. And with every memory, a piece of me was restored, not just forgiven, rebuilt, loved back into wholeness. And then I saw something in the distance, something beyond the stars, something that shimmered like home. And I felt the pull, the longing. I was ready to go there, to step fully into eternity. But God wasn't finished with me yet. As I drifted deeper into the light, I sensed I had crossed a threshold. This was no longer just a journey. It was a return to something I had forgotten, but deeply belonged to. The air, or what felt like air, was alive. Every particle shimmered with memory, music, meaning. I wasn't walking. I wasn't floating. I was being drawn into the presence of something infinite and intimate at the same time. Then I felt him, not as a man on a throne, not as thunder or fire, but as presence itself. Love so powerful it eclipsed everything I'd ever known. And yet, it didn't crush me. It held me, whispered to me, knew me before I could speak. It was Jesus. I didn't see his face in the way we see with human eyes, but every part of me knew. My soul recognized him instantly, the way a child recognizes the sound of their mother's voice before they ever know her name. Clarisse, you've come home, but there is more I want to show you. And then the stars before me shifted slowly, forming what looked like a curtain woven not of cloth, but of galaxies. They rippled with time. Then, like a divine performance beginning, the curtain parted, and I saw myself, my beginning, a newborn baby in my mother's trembling arms. I watched the moment she kissed my forehead, and I felt her tears fall into my cheeks. That memory had long left me, but here it was again, in perfect detail, radiating love. Then the film of my life unfolded. I didn't just see it, I relived it. Losing my first tooth, singing off-key at a school play, laughing with my cousins in the rain. The first time I saved a patient's life. the day I said yes to Gabriel, the moment I held my son. All those memories flowing one into the next were wrapped in a strange kind of sacred light. There was no shame, no harsh commentary, only divine warmth, admiration, and a sense that every second had mattered far more than I ever realized. And yet, I began to panic, remembered what I had done, the self harm, the starvation, the anger, the denial. I braced myself for judgment, for divine disappointment, but none came, just silence, gentle, patient, and then his voice again. You thought I would judge you, but I never came to judge, I came to heal. Tears rose instantly. I tried to explain, to justify, to confess, but he already knew it all. Not only the sins, but the reasons behind them, the aching hunger for worth, the way I had believed the lie that I wasn't enough. Judgment belongs to those who do not understand love. Clarisse. You judged yourself, and that judgment kept you from me. My spirit folded inward. I whispered, I'm sorry I didn't love myself. Then, without warning, an enormous object appeared before me like a pair of glasses the size of a car. I laughed. I'm supposed to wear that, but as I reached out, they gently shrank, and when I placed them before my eyes, they fit perfectly. The moment I looked through them, everything changed. The life review began again, but this time I saw what I had never seen before. Moments I had forgotten. Moments the world doesn't applaud. A day in a nursing home when I was a child brushing the hair of a lonely woman and singing Jesus Loves Me. I had thought it meaningless, but now I could see her heart light up. I could feel her loneliness vanish in that small moment of care. That Clarisse was worship. Then I saw myself sitting beside a patient dying alone during the night shift, holding their hand until their final breath, whispering a prayer no one else would hear. These were not small things. These were eternal. Then the stars opened again, and behind them appeared shelves, tall, endless, filled with glowing boxes, each one unique, radiant, alive. I asked, what are these? These are the gifts I gave to my children. Each one carries my fingerprint. He led me to a shelf marked with my name. 2 boxes glowed brighter than the others. When I formed you, Clarisse, I placed within you the gift of patience and the gift of beauty. I lowered my head, but I was never beautiful. He stopped me with a stillness that silenced even my thoughts. You believed beauty was what the world sees, but I see the heart, and your heart was always mine. At that moment, decades of insecurity broke off of me like shattered glass. I finally understood what beauty meant. Not perfection, not symmetry, but presence, compassion, courage in the face of silence, mercy when no one's watching. I began to feel whole for the first time in my life. Not fixed, whole. And in that sacred moment, I thought, this is it. I'm ready. Let me stay here forever. But God had more to reveal. Just when I thought the shelves of gifts and the warmth of his voice were the end, Jesus asked me to look again, not inward but outward. And as I did, the stars above began to dissolve. In their place appeared something vast and familiar. Earth. It was floating in space, radiant, yet trembling. I watched mesmerized as light dimmed across its surface, slowly replaced by flickers then flames. At first I couldn't comprehend what I was seeing, but the longer I looked, the clearer it became. The world was on fire, not with physical flames, but something deeper, spiritual fire burning not trees or buildings, but hearts, motives, lies. It wasn't destruction, it was revelation. I felt my chest tighten. My family is there, my children, my husband, my friends. Lord, what is happening to them? Panic rose in my soul. I wanted to run, to shout, to descend and protect them. But I couldn't move. I could only watch. Look closely, Clarisse. Not with fear, but with truth. And so I did. In the fire, I saw them souls. Thousands of them. They looked like strands of silver rising out of the earth, drifting upward through the fire without being burned. These souls were radiant, at peace. Each one rising felt like a wave of comfort washing over me, a melody of reunion. They floated past me like stars returning home. For a moment I felt relief. They're okay, I whispered. They're going home. But then something shifted. Jesus' presence grew still, like sorrow was blooming inside him. I turned to him, but he said nothing. Now look again. My vision focused deeper, and this time I saw what I had missed. Among the souls rising, there were others, dim, flickering, struggling. Some weren't rising at all. They remained low, caught in place. Others floated upward for a moment, then fell back. Worst of all, some didn't move because they didn't even try. They had accepted the weight holding them down. They didn't fight. They didn't hope. I watched as some cried out, others stayed silent. They weren't evil. They weren't monsters. They were disconnected from love, from purpose, from Him. I cried out, Lord, why aren't they rising? Please, you can help them, lift them, save them. Clarisse, I gave every soul a gift at birth, the gift of life, and with it, free will. Love cannot be forced. It must be chosen. The connection must be real, willingly embraced. His voice trembled not from weakness, but from heartbreak. I had never felt sorrow so divine, so ancient. My love has no end, but not all say yes to it, and I will not violate the very gift I gave freedom to choose. I wanted to scream, to argue. Some of them were hurt, lied to, forgotten. They don't know how to choose you. That is why I send people like you, to remind them, to awaken them, to be my echo. Tears ran down my soul. These weren't faceless spirits. These were daughters, sons, teachers, fathers, women who believed they weren't worthy men, who buried their pain behind pride. And the fire wasn't punishing them. It was revealing their choice, whether or not they carried the light inside. The greatest tragedy is not death. It is a soul that never knew how loved it truly was. I collapsed inside myself, not from despair but from the weight of truth. We live our lives chasing things, validation, approval, status, when all he wants is connection. All he's ever asked for is love freely returned. You judge yourself unworthy, so did they, but I never said that. Never. The earth continued to burn, not in violence, but in urgency. It was a purging, a shaking, and the fire was truth itself. Stripping away what didn't matter, I whispered, then let me go back. Let me tell them, please, if I return I will speak. I won't be silent. There was a pause. Then he answered with a kindness that wrapped around my entire being. Not yet, child. First you must see one more thing. Something many never speak of, but all must know. Jesus said there was one more thing I needed to see before I could return. I thought I had already witnessed the hardest part, seeing souls left behind, watching the earth burn in truth. But what came next broke something deeper. I felt a shift, a stillness, and then a slow descent. The light around me began to fade. At first it was gentle, dim, like twilight before nightfall. But then the warmth vanished. The peace evaporated, and I was falling. Not in motion, but in vibration. Everything around me felt heavy, thick, stifling. The deeper I went, the more it felt like joy itself had been silenced. And then I heard them, voices. Not shouting, not screaming, worse, whispers. Thousands of them. Low, twisted, full of contempt. You were never enough. No one really loved you. You think you're special. You're a fraud. Each sentence felt like it came from inside me, like echoes of every fear I'd ever believed, every lie I'd ever swallowed. I wanted to cover my ears, but I didn't have ears. I wanted to run, but there was nowhere to go. The air here was made of accusation. And then I felt them, hands, dozens, maybe hundreds, grabbing, pulling, not to hurt me, but to drain me. Each touch felt like it was stripping away a piece of me, my light, my strength, my voice. They didn't want to destroy me. They wanted to consume me, because I was the only light in that place. And they were desperate for it. I realized I wasn't in hell. I was in the outer shadow of it, where souls drifted, disconnected, starving, still whispering the lies they had believed in life, carrying the same shame, same pride, same rage. I could feel it, their resentment, their sorrow, their bitterness, and it was contagious. I began to lose memory of who I was, why I was even there. A terrifying fog closed in, and for a moment, I began to believe the whispers. Maybe I was never enough. Maybe I didn't belong in the light. Maybe I was just pretending. That's when it happened. A single thought, a flicker, small but defiant. God, I love you. And then louder inside me, I love you, God. I don't want to be here. It wasn't a command. It wasn't a bargain. It was a confession, a reaching. The only thing I had left. Clarisse, my love never left you. And in that instant, I felt it again rushing through me like wind through broken windows. The hands fell away. The voices recoiled. They couldn't hold me anymore, 'cause I wasn't theirs. I had chosen connection, not fear, not performance, not perfection, just love. Love is your lifeline, not your strength, not your record, not even your faith, just love. I felt myself rising, slowly but surely, like light drawn upward out of water. Above me, I could feel his presence again. Warm, familiar, Father. And the farther I went, the more I remembered who I was, whose I was, what I was meant for. When I crossed that invisible barrier, leaving the darkness below, I felt the final chain snap. I wasn't being judged. I was being rescued. Many of my children walk with light, yet still hear the darkness whisper. But the darkness has no claim unless they agree with it. Your rescue is not because you earned it, Clarisse. It's because you said yes to love. I began to cry not with despair but with overwhelming relief, because now I knew the real enemy wasn't the darkness, it was disconnection. And all it took to return to the light was to reach, to say yes, to surrender. There are many who live in shadows while standing in sunlight. Go to them, sit with them, remind them who they are. I nodded. For the first time in my existence, spiritual or physical, I felt completely clear, completely known, and completely ready. But then something stirred in me, a question, one I had almost been afraid to ask. Jesus, do I have to go back? He smiled, not with his face but with his presence. And in that moment, I felt both the yes and the love behind it. You still have work to do, child, but I will be with you in every breath, in every whisper of love you give. And when your true time comes, I will bring you home myself. I surrendered to his will, and he said only one more thing before I left. Take what I've placed inside you, patience, beauty, wisdom, and now, compassion. Carry them like light and speak, not to prove, but to awaken. Then everything went still, and I felt the pull like the cord of life calling me back. Back to earth, back to unfinished work. The moment I said yes to Jesus, everything began to shift. There was no flash of light, no dramatic music, just a pulling, a divine current flowing backward through time. I wasn't afraid. I trusted him. But part of me ached. I didn't want to leave the warmth, the peace, the overwhelming love I had found. I wasn't going back to something broken. I was returning to a world still drowning in noise. Then I saw it. My body, still pale, lying motionless in the emergency room. Monitors flashing. Nurses moving fast. Gabriel holding my hand like it was the last string holding me to this world. And then I was pulled back in. It felt like falling into ice. Pain crashed in first, then sound, then light. I gasped, but no air came. I tried to move. Nothing. The nurses shouted, "She's back. She's stabilizing." Gabriel wept. "Clarisse, can you hear me?" I could. I just couldn't respond. I wanted to scream, "I've seen him. I've seen Jesus," but my mouth wouldn't open. My tongue felt like lead. The doctor told me not to speak. "You need rest. Don't strain yourself." But inside me a fire was rising. A flood of memory, of truth, of divine instruction that burned in my chest. I had to tell them. I had to tell the world. The next morning, a man in a white coat entered the room with a clipboard and a calm smile that didn't reach his eyes. He introduced himself as the attending psychiatrist. He said they had spoken to Gabriel, the pastor, and even the man who had driven me to the church, based on everything running barefoot into traffic, claiming to meet God collapsing, and screaming about fire and light before going unconscious. They believed I was having a psychotic break. Gabriel looked away when I turned to him. He couldn't meet my eyes, and my heart shattered a little. I didn't resist. I was too weak, too stunned. Within hours, I was transferred to a psychiatric facility. The form said voluntary, but it wasn't. I was locked behind white walls under fluorescent lights, given pills I didn't need, and questioned daily. When I spoke of the tunnel, the love, the stars parting, the voice of Jesus, they upped the dosage. When I said I wasn't afraid of death anymore, they took notes. When I said judgment wasn't real and only love remained, they called it grandiosity. Each truth I tried to share was labeled a symptom. So I stopped talking, I smiled, I nodded, I said what they wanted to hear. And the more I pretended, the fewer pills they gave. She's stable now, they said. She's responding to treatment. But inside I was screaming, "You're not listening. I'm not sick. I'm awake." And yet, even in silence, he was still there. At night, in the stillness, I would close my eyes and whisper, "I remember." I would replay his words, the shelves of gifts, the rising souls, the fire of truth. And then I would feel him again, not in a vision, but in a presence that settled over me like a blanket. They won't all believe you, Clarisse. That's not your burden. Your task is to tell the truth, not to force it to be received. Even if only one soul awakens through your story, heaven will rejoice. After nearly a month, I was released. Gabriel drove me home. The silence between us was thick. He glanced at me like I might shatter. And finally, I said softly, "Gabriel, I'm not mentally ill. I died, and I saw Jesus." He broke, right there, hands trembling on the steering wheel. "Why didn't I believe you?" he whispered. "Why didn't I trust you?" I reached for his hand, "Because it wasn't your time to understand. But now that you do, I need your help. I have to speak." I didn't start big. I wrote a short blog, then a letter, then one quiet video. No makeup, no lights, just the truth. My voice shaky but alive. Some people mocked me, others called me delusional. But slowly, people began to listen. I received messages from women who had suffered silently, men who had battled addiction, youth who had planned to take their lives until they heard my voice. They said I never believed in God, but something about your words made me want to hope again. I didn't share to be right, I shared to reach. Your voice was not given for performance, it was given for healing. Every time I speak, I feel that fire again, the same fire that pulled me from the dark. And I remember his face, not the image of it, but the feel of it, the way love dripped from his every word, the way he never flinched at my shame, the way he called me daughter. I live differently now. I listen more, I rush less, I look people in the eye when they speak. I know what it feels like to be forgotten. I know what it means to be found. I may have come back from heaven, but I also came back with a mission, to remind people of the love they've forgotten, to be the light in the dark corners no one wants to enter. Because I was there, and now by grace, I am here. If you've come this far in my story, thank you. I don't know who you are. I don't know what you're carrying, but I do know this: you matter. I didn't just die and come back to say I saw a bright light. I came back with a message. A truth that burns deeper than any scar, brighter than any pain. That truth is this: you are loved, you are seen, and no matter how dark things feel right now, you're not alone. I spent years thinking I had to earn worth, that I had to be skinny enough, pretty enough, good enough to deserve love. I destroyed my body, silenced my soul, and buried the gifts I was born with. And yet, even when I was running toward death, Jesus was running toward me, not to punish me, but to pull me out. Clarisse, I never stopped loving you, even when you stopped loving yourself. If he said that to me, he's saying it to you too. Because this isn't about me. This is about us, about a world so busy surviving that we've forgotten how to truly live. We don't need more likes, more money, more applause. We need connection to each other, to truth, to him. So if you've been drifting, if you've been questioning your worth, if you've been hiding behind a smile like I once did, please stop running, lift your eyes, and just whisper, "God, I want to come home." That's all it takes. One breath of surrender is more powerful than a lifetime of pretending. I'm not looking for perfection. I'm waiting for permission to love you fully. I was sent back to be a voice, but not just mine. Yours matters too. You might be the only light someone ever sees, the only kindness they remember, the only reason they don't give up. So live with love, speak with mercy, and walk like someone who knows heaven is real because it is. And if this story touched you, if even one moment stirred something inside your heart, then don't let it stop here. Let's carry this light together. Subscribe to this channel. Leave a comment, your story might help someone else. And share this video with someone who needs hope today. Not because we're building an audience, but because we're building a movement of mercy. I'm Clarisse Alvarez. I died once, but now I truly live. And if I could leave you with just one final whisper, it would be this: you are enough, you are loved, and you are never ever too far gone.